look to nature. Why is the alpha male the biggest and the strongest? And if you challenge him, he's going to wield his power.
Right.
So there's consequences to challenging the power. And if you they always say, if you want to know who's in power, ask who you can't criticize.
Right.
So if you can't be criticized, that's how you know who's in charge.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is another week and another episode of the Budo Brothers podcast. You've got Kyle.
And Eric.
And today, I wanted to get a little bit heavier. I wanted to talk about power.
Okay.
And power in the sense, not like generating power, but having power over somebody, having control over somebody. Like in a sparring match, you're dominating somebody and they know they can't win and you just are owning them.
More powerful.
Yes, more powerful, overpowering, dominant, and control. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because no matter where you sit right now in the world, things are feeling like we're being controlled a lot more. Like we just got out of a pandemic where we're being controlled. Now it seems like the government are controlling us and the economy is controlling us. Like it just seems like there is a lot of things stealing, in particular, my power, right? Like stealing my ability to do things as a free human being. And it just made me think, like, how does one get power? How do people become kings and queens? How does one become more powerful over another person? How do you get controlled? And I just wanted to brainstorm about that, because maybe if we think about how a person can take your power, we can figure out how to keep our power.
Because there's a bunch of different ways we could take this. Because I think coming together on a definition of what power is would be helpful. Power meaning, how would you define power?
I guess power is meaning control.
Okay.
And in this sense, power over somebody, so control over somebody, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're powerful. They're the powerful
Yeah.
force.
Yeah.
They're the dominant power.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think by that definition, the person that yields that power has some ability, has the ability to deliver ramifications for challenging the power. Look to nature. Why is the alpha male the biggest and the strongest? And if you challenge him, he's going to wield his power.
Right.
So there's consequences to challenging the power. And if they always say, if you want to know who's in power, ask who you can't criticize.
Right.
So if you can't be criticized, that's how you know who's in charge.
Right. And yeah, in nature, the more powerful animal just wins by sheer force and like dominance.
Testosterone.
Right? Yeah. And then like in the warrior days, like the more powerful army was the one that won in dominance.
Yes.
And I feel like it's shifting a little bit. And hear me out. I think the main equation for having power over somebody in today's world is the ability to control time.
Okay.
And this is why I think that money makes you powerful. Like in a lot of the times,
ways.
Like corporations are powerful. The governments who have the most money are more powerful. But what is money? Money is a store of value.
Yep.
And essentially what it's storing is units of time worked.
Labor.
Right? So if you were to melt down and take away all the smoke and mirrors about money, it is essentially a storage of time, right? You have, in a corporation, people working underneath you, and you produce a lot. You get more done in a shorter amount of hours, and you could collect that and save it in a monetary form. And it really made me think, when am I the most uncomfortable? And that's when somebody controls my time. They control my hours. When I wake up in the morning and the hours of my day are dictated by somebody else or something else. When somebody else or something else has control over the hours in your day, they have power over you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it was just this mind-blowing thing. It's like, anytime I feel like my time is not my own, I feel like I'm being controlled. Right? And it happened a lot during COVID, where it's like, you're forced to stay at home. Like, I'm controlling your day.
Yeah.
Right? Or it happens a lot when you're in a job and you're like, I don't want to do that. Well, you have to do that.
Yeah. I'll fire you.
Yeah. And I feel like that's power. And if we can agree that controlling of time equals power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because money equals power, and money controls the world currently. How do we start taking control of our time more? How do we start gaining our power back?
Yeah. And that's where my first instinct, like the first thing that came up, was production. Produce, be productive, create more than you can consume. If you create more than you consume and you save the difference, you put it in reserves, somebody wants to challenge your time, challenge your power, you know that you don't have to say yes to everything. You're not desperate. I've been desperate before. I've been down to my bottom dollar. I'll do anything. I'll fix your fence. I gotta eat. And that is a rough place to be. And we've all been there. Many of us have been there. For the fortunate ones that have not been there, I don't even want to say fortunate, because those experiences were the most powerful of my life.
Yeah. They were empowering.
They were empowering because I got through it. And if I know that if I get knocked down, it's going to be painful. I'm going to be loathing. I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to be sad. I'm going to beat myself up. But there is the other side. The only way is through.
Yes.
And once I learned that I can do that, it's not going to make the knockdowns any less painful. But there is going to be this next time when it happens, because it's not like it's never going to happen. Cycle, boom and bust, feast and famine. That's the way the world works. But I know that the next time that I get knocked down, there's going to be a little light that's guiding me, because I've been through this before. It's not as scary. I know I've gone through this. I thought my world was going to end. It didn't. What happened? I learned from it. I got better. I got to work. I started producing more, produced more to get myself out of the hole. And then when I could, I started to produce way more than I consume and save the difference. And for the last little while, that's what I've been doing, is I've just been saving reserves. Because if I can have a bunch of reserves in the tank, just like in martial arts, you can outlast the threats to somebody taking your power or your time.
So you have the reserves, but how do you know? Because like, you're building reserves, and are there still influences controlling your time? How do you know when to deploy those reserves against the outside force?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I think reserves are reserved for when you need them most. Like that's the thing about reserves. It can't be, just saved money that you peel off 100 to go drinking. It's got to be something that you can't touch.
Yeah.
You got to put it, so you got to bury it. You got to hide it. You got to invest it in something. Do something with it.
Yes.
So that makes it inaccessible.
Yeah.
Unless you need to access it. Access it. If you have to access it, it's there. But only break the glass in the case of an emergency.
Right. And I know that there's two opposing forces. Obviously, when we have two polarized areas, the middle is always the most balanced, right?
Yeah.
And this is like even deeper down the rabbit hole. In order to gain power, you said it, you need to empower yourself, right?
Yeah.
You need to focus on yourself first in order to get control of your environment, of your external pressures, right? Now, one of the biggest enemies of time, on the opposite side of the scale, the two cannot exist together, is presence. Presence and time cannot exist in the same space.
How so?
Time measures the past, measures the future. it is a unit of measurement of
Yes.
anything but the individual moment.
Right.
If you were to think about it,
Yeah.
we invented time
Yeah.
to think about how long something is going to take from now,
Yep. Yeah.
or how long something happened from the moment now.
Right. Yeah.
You can't measure presence
Yeah.
with time. It's impossible.
Right.
As soon as you think about time, you're instantly either in the future or in the past. Because as soon as you say it's 12:18, the second change, the second change, the second change.
Yeah.
It becomes a moment of the past, right? When you're present, time does not exist.
True.
You are in a world where you don't care about the past, you don't care about the future. You are in the moment. And in a moment, there's no time. Like when you are having fun and you're present, time disappears.
And that's why it feels like it flies.
Exactly. You don't know what time it is. You're not
Yeah.
checking like, oh
Yeah.
man, that 10 minutes was so fun. Right? So in order to combat time, you need presence. You need to be in the moment. You need to check in with yourself. You need to meditate. You need to take time. And I noticed that we're in a bit of a rut where we have so many outside stimuluses demanding our time that we are not taking the time to work on ourselves and be present. Work on our routine, work on our arrive before you leave, work on our meditative practice, work on thinking about the big movements that are going to move us in the right direction. Just being happy and content with the process versus all of the things, right? And it's funny because it almost feels like you're moving backwards, right?
Because I got to do this.
Yeah, I'm falling behind.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get enough stuff done today, and everything's going to get away from me. But really, you just trapped yourself into somebody else's time, right? Because you are running around in this circle doing things for other people at the whims of other people, at the stimuluses of other things, at the stimuluses of your environment. You are not centered and controlling your time and space as best as you can, right? And not stressing about past and future, because you can only do what's in front of you in any moment.
And it's so easy to get taken out of present time.
Yes.
With no shortage of the daily outrage and what's trending on Twitter and who's saying what, and we're on the brink of nuclear war. Like, there's a lot of things to worry about right now.
Totally. Like even the nuclear war stuff, right? I'm sure everybody's heard of a risk of nuclear war in there somewhere.
How can
in
you not?
Yeah. And you read that, you're like, oh damn. Let me research this.
God, what can I do?
And then you like go down this rabbit hole, and your brain is spinning around this problem that you have no control of.
Yeah.
For so long, like your power was taken from you.
Yeah.
Because in that moment you're powerless. You're powerless in that moment because there's nothing you can do about the situation but worry.
Right.
And it's taken everything away from your life because you're not moving towards your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your desires.
But you can put a Ukraine flag in the Bible.
Right.
Like, again, it does nothing.
Right.
But you're right. We are powerless when we are just acting from a place of fear and worry, because all of that is fear and worry of some sort of future outcome, which is a possibility. It's also a possibility that nothing comes of it. It's also a possibility that the world returns to peace and abundance and a new bull market unleashes the world and we're entering a new era of prosperity. It's also a possibility we could be heading into the Great Depression. If we spend all our time thinking about the infinite possibilities, we can have hunches, we can make educated guesses by past experiences, but nothing guarantees what the future's going to. Otherwise, you'd be able to predict the future.
Yeah.
And no one can.
And guessing the future is like winning the lottery. Actually, you have a better chance of winning the lottery. Like
Yeah.
you
Well,
can,
it depends on what you're guessing, but yeah.
but think about it though. Like if you were to guess exactly everything in the future,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
right? statistically
No
it's
way.
impossible.
For sure.
There's way too many variables.
Yeah.
Like, you could guess trends, you could guess macro events, but to guess how everything's going to go in the future, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Like, you could guess that the world is going to do this and there's going to be new, but you might not even be alive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You might not even be in that world.
I think the one thing that is not a caveat, but a thing that allows you to be more predictive of future events is cycles, tuning into cycles. Pattern recognition. The
history doesn't repeat, it rhymes.
Yes. And look at nature. Again, looking at nature, how does nature work? Nature works on the cycles of the sun. The sun comes up, the rooster crows, all the animals get busy doing whatever their instincts tell them to do, and there's no concept of time. It's, well, they have this natural, when it's dark, I sleep. When it's light, I get up and I guess I got to eat. Shit, I guess I better prevent myself from being eaten, and I probably should procreate. Yeah. Those are like the...
and then there's always exceptions to the rule, because then you move up way far north into like Alaska.
Yeah.
And there's darkness for almost the whole day,
Yep.
right? They live in darkness.
Yep.
So 98% of the time that's true,
Yep.
minus the animals that live there.
For sure.
So like, you can always be prepared, but there's always the black swan event or the unpredictable.
Yeah.
You're always going to get caught because you cannot predict everything.
Yes. Yeah. And I listened to a really great financial podcast guy, Dan Ferris, the Stansberry podcast. And he always says, prepare, don't predict. Don't predict. Prepare, don't predict.
Yeah.
Meaning, prepare for any outcome. Be adaptable. Be able to pivot. Be able to move. Be able to turn around on a dime. Be able to abort mission. When we're overly committed, it becomes a liability. Because if that commitment falls through, you fall flat on your face.
And I think prepare without attachment.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
Prepare, but no, that's not certainly the outcome. You're just playing statistics, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to prepare for the event that this happens. Like, what if this happens and wipes everything away? Like, both you and I have stockpiled food. Right? Even if there's no nuclear holocaust or whatever in Russia.
Yeah.
What if the grocery store shut down for a week? What if something happens? Like, it's just a good thing to prepare for. If we never have to use it, fantastic.
And the worst case, the no-lose situation is it does happen and I have food. It doesn't happen and I have food.
Yeah.
I have food that lasts 5-6 years because it's canned. I fall on hard times and I need to dip into that because guess what? It's hard to pay for my food right now. That's reserves. That's putting things in reserve.
Right. Another thing we put into reserve is physical metals.
Yeah.
Right? Not like, well,
crazy amount, but
yeah, we have a little bit.
We stack the board. We
Right?
put a little in stocks, a little in everything.
Yeah, and we have some physical gold. We have some in stocks. We try to prepare for different economic situations. Another thing we put in reserves is we put in reserves of energy into our health and fitness.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Staying healthy.
Like, there's certain things that you prepare for. Like, it's not the easy route, waking up and working out and doing like things for your body, but it's going to keep you prepared and keep you healthy for if you need to withstand things as your immune system. Like, it's just it's the way to go.
You can't be powerful if you're not healthy.
Right.
It's hard to be powerful if you're not healthy.
Yes. So, circling back, power dictate, like, I feel like one of the best ways to know if you're powerful is if you control your time and space, right? Like, Bob Marley had a quote, and a lot of his songs are like being a simple man, but being in control of like being happy and content with everything around himself. It didn't have anything to do with money. Money is a control. It is a chain. It is a shackle, right? And if it's the only thing that you think about every day, I don't have enough, or how am I going to keep it, or because it is a very stressful thing. You're giving up your power, right?
Yeah.
You're giving up your power because the only thing you can control is presently how you're working on that, and the interactions you have with your family and friends, the interactions you have with your body, with yourself, the interactions you have on a daily basis, right? You can just work your best within your situation and to try to get your power back, because there are some powerful people without a penny in the bank.
Yep.
Right? Because they are who they are, and they are 100% authentic, and they don't let anybody control their time and space.
It's beautiful.
Right. Budo Brothers Challenge.
I challenge everyone listening to this podcast to meditate for an entire month. If you're not doing it, 4 straight weeks, it doesn't have to be long, 5 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the morning, right when you get out of bed. Focus on being present and cultivating your power by controlling a small amount of your time through meditation.
That's really good.
4 weeks starting now.
Boom. All right. Until next week.
See you then.